What is going on, everybody? This is episode 573 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett, and I am here once again with my co-host. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, Crisis Actors. It's Mary. This week, Sarah happens to be out of town, but we found this homeless street urchin. He says his name is Dave. Hi.
Hello, everyone.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. So they need a little bit of feminine energy, and so here I am.
We needed to replace Sarah's feminine energy, and you're every woman.
Who better?
Who better to replace?
That is literally it. Now I'm adjusting your shot like as we go. So we got a bunch of stuff to get into today. It's kind of fortuitous in a sad sort of way because Dane, without any instruction from us, was in fact watching Quiet on the Set, this absolutely shocking documentary. I guess it's only shocking if you don't know how awful Hollywood is, but it's disturbing documentary talking about Dan Schneider and all the evils that have become of Nickelodeon in the last two decades. So
if you've been dialed in the know, like you already knew about Dan Schneider, but I think this is definitely worth a watch, and we're going to get into more of the details.
We're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about Dan Schneider's response to this. He released his own video through the Hollywood Reporter, so we're going to talk about that.
Debuted his glow up.
Yes, lost all that weight. Yeah. But the Hollywood debauchery doesn't end there because we're also going to talk about, remember last week we had a segment, it was called Influencer Moms Must Be Stopped.
Yes.
Well, there's a new one. It's Hollywood Moms. They must be stopped because Charlie Sheen's daughter, Sammy Sheen, is promoting new collaborations with her mother, Denise Richards, on OnlyFans. But not just that, ladies and gentlemen. Elizabeth Hurley has been talking about how she felt very, very happy to have her son on set directing her most recent movie with her most recent sex scene. So
it was liberating.
It was liberating, she says. So the Hollywood women, they really must be stopped at all costs if we are going to survive. So we're going to talk about that. Also, guys, the science is back. We're going to talk about the science because the science has decreed that woke people are way more miserable than everyone else. Now, we're going to have to get into, once again, that argument about what the hell that term means. But I think that they do a pretty good job of explaining it in the article. So we'll have a lot of fun discussing that. Mary, we got a $20 one right there. You got that one?
This is from Exploding Pretty. DSP is looking pretty rough in your thumbnail.
Yeah, so Dan Schneider's looking
What's the P? What's the P for?
Or is Drake Bell looking?
This DSP. I don't know.
DSP's like a video gamer.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the video gamer has an unfortunate resemblance with Dan Schneider.
Okay.
I don't know.
Dane, what was the first thing you thought of when you saw the documentary?
I mean, typical is like what I first thought of. It's so funny. I feel like yesterday you guys talked about everything I want to talk about, especially because weren't you in that podcast with that girl that converted from whatever?
Yeah, we talked about that on Monday.
She converted from whatever.
No, because I always found it's so funny the juxtaposition of you two.
Well, I mean, it's inconclusive, obviously. Like, we don't really know what's going on there.
Really?
How do you feel about it? Do you think it's genuine?
Man, I hope so.
I do
because
too.
she was so performative.
Yeah.
That in my head is like, this one's like particularly hurt.
Yeah.
Because she's doing a whole song and dance. So I don't know.
And they got so mad at me for just even saying like, hey, like this is kind of performative. And they were like, stop! You don't know her. You don't know her story.
And that's what, and so that's why.
She's just like this.
When I saw the transformation, I had the same conclusion as you. And so when I saw the transformation, my first thing is like, I wonder what Mary's thinking about it.
And also,
I wonder if she texted you even.
No, I don't have contact with her, but like, I mean, I did reach out and I asked her myself, like, hey, what's this all about? But I didn't get a response. But those girls sitting next to her also, they had just met her when I did, like 20 minutes before the show started. So they were sitting there saying like, no, this is her real personality. How dare you even suggest otherwise? And it's like, no, you're just playing defense for this
misery
chick
loves company.
It's true. They wanted to drag her down to rock bottom with them.
Evil, I tell you. Evil. Well, there, you got your thoughts out on that.
Yeah, no, I'm happy about it.
Yeah, I hope it's real. Like that's really the
Me too,
long
man.
and the short of it. It's like hope for genuine change, and I think you can't go wrong as long as you're kind of brace yourself so that things don't always work out the way you think they will.
And I feel really disappointed at the faction of people that have been like, yeah, it lives forever, and they're sharing like inappropriate pictures of her on the internet. It's like, I don't know. You should hope for redemption.
I see Fear Me It's Bree in the chat says, I haven't watched live in so long, so thank you.
We've missed you.
Yes, we're glad when everybody comes back, because a lot of people will sometimes say like, oh, I started a new job, I'm working at a different time now, I don't get a chance to watch live, so they comment, on the videos and stuff like that. So thank you to everyone who's watching live right now. Hit the like button, please, on this video, and subscribe to this channel if you have not done so already, please and thank you. Share this video with your friends, these live streams, all the segments, so that more people can come in here, watch the live shows, find the channel, watch segments, find things that they like or don't like, share them, with their friends, because a lot of times when they don't like stuff, they'll share it too and be like, I don't like this. This is a problem.
That's what we aim to do, is offend.
So do that, guys. Remember, all Super Chats, $20 and over. We will interrupt the discussion, and we will then do our very best to get right back on topic as soon as we're done. So if you guys are ready, we will just go ahead and get started. Mary, are you ready?
Yes.
Dane?
Yep.
Okay. Let's go ahead and get started then.
We've all consented?
Yes.
We've given our consent.
Enthusiastic consent.
Enthusiastically.
Yes.
Exactly. That's what I was looking for there. All right. I got some bad news to start the show off, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like the Ghostbusters Frozen Empire Rotten Tomatoes score isn't looking all that great. That is, of course, if you care what critics think about a movie. Right? Like if you actually, I like it. It is one of those things where when you disagree with critics or when you like a property, suddenly the critics don't matter. But when you don't like a property and the critics agree with you, suddenly the critics matter. They don't matter. Okay? Audiences
It's
matter.
hard to predict them, actually.
I think more often than not, the critics are less predictable than the audiences. A lot of times.
Doesn't that mean they're less biased?
I think there's an argument to be made there that an aggregator would be less biased unless it's one of these huge properties like Star Wars or the Marvels or Marvel, where you get a lot of review bombing in there. But critic score and audience scores are different. And for the most part, when it comes to franchises like this, I didn't think the sequel needed to be made. I thought that Afterlife was a perfectly lovely film. I thought McKenna Grace was fantastic in it, but I didn't think they needed to continue on with the franchise, and that seems to be some of the sentiment I'm seeing. Now, there's a couple of channels that I really like that do like it, and I kind of, not that I like the channels, but I find that when we talk about movies, we tend to have similar tastes. So you can kind of, I think that's a good way of basing your, if you care about critics, is to see who you agree with and who you disagree with the most, right? Who has the same taste as you. Because it's not about whether they're objectively right or not. It's about whether
if you'll
the
like
taste
it.
of that, well, it should be about whether the person whose taste you're taking the advice from lines up with your own. Now, Jeremy Johns didn't like this movie, and I tend to trust Jeremy Johns quite a bit. But some other podcasts I listened to did find it okay.
Man, it's funny. There really doesn't seem to be a turd that Paul Rudd won't run head first. Like this guy.
Yeah, he has no standards.
Like, I'll be Ant-Man.
He's a man on the streets.
Well, I mean, Ant-Man was fine. He's Paul Rudd. He's like, I'm going to be here for 1,000 years. I don't age. I better just act as much as possible.
The adrenochrome is just pumping through his veins.
You think his is adrenochrome, or he was just born with it?
I think it's a mixture.
Yeah, you got to have genetic blessing and the adrenochrome.
Speaking of which, one of the other actors in this, Ernie Hudson, he looks barely a day, like he looks basically the same as he did when Ghostbusters came out. It's like he was born 30 and he's looked 30 ever since.
Yeah. Is he the underrated one they thought about?
Yeah, he's the one that
changing
didn't get
his
they didn't get as much screen time in the first Ghostbusters because his role was originally supposed to go to Eddie Murphy. And Eddie Murphy was just a much bigger star at that time, so he didn't get the screen time. Like literally, there's versions of the film where like Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, and Bill Murray are like in frame, and he's just kind of cropped out. Like it was the 80s. Okay, it was a bad time. Speaking of which, Jessica's working on It was the 90s shirt.
Oh, that's encouraging. Great.
So,
Back to work, Jessica.
Yes.
Whoosh.
All right. Speaking of bad ideas, I don't know if Ghostbusters Frozen Empire needed to be made, but there is a new Ryan Coogler movie that's going to be made. If you don't know who he is, he directed Fruitvale Station. He did Black Panther. He did the Creed movies. Ryan Coogler and his longtime collaborator, Michael B. Jordan, are working on a secret film set in the 30s in the Jim Crow South, and it's rumored to be vampires versus the KKK.
Vampires going to war against the Ku Klux Klan. I think this really could be a vibe.
There is potential here. There is potential here.
Burning
there's
crosses.
a great line where like,
call it burning crosses.
The vampire, as he's
Whoa,
getting revenge,
nice.
is like, in the end, we all bleed red. And then just like eats the dude.
That's a good line.
It writes itself.
But it's probably going to be like taking itself way too seriously,
Yes.
not leaning into the ridiculousness of it.
So
By the way, that other movie that took itself seriously about the magical.
The American Society of
yeah.
Magical Negroes.
Yeah, heard that was a flopperooski.
It was a flopperooski. Yes.
Who would have thought not being too comfortably say the movie title would affect it?
there was some great memes going around. They're like, I'll have 2 for the
the movie.
The movie.
I'm invited to the cookout.
The report also describes a rumor I had posted a few weeks ago that Coogler's film would be set in the 30s South, centering on vampires with twin roles for Jordan, and that would be set with heavy anime influences. The 1930s Jim Crow South setting is not an accident. There's been word that the plot would center on vampires going to war with the Ku Klux Klan. That actually makes total sense given the setting of the film, which is smack dab in the middle and during the height of the Klan. Now, we actually made the point, and I think Valiant Renegade made the point. He said if they had made that movie about, a time during Jim Crow, it would have made more sense.
Well, true. But I think that, wouldn't vampires who are black in the 30s, stage a revolution to free
I suppose
everyone?
they
or
say
not the
that-
30s, but the 1800s? I don't
Yeah.
know.
As a black vampire from the 30s, I would have to agree.
If I were a black vampire in the 1800s, I would have ended slavery. I'm just saying. I would have done it.
I do think it's going to be an interesting thing to see if they could find the right tone. It doesn't have to be entirely quirky and over the top. This doesn't have to be Sharknado.
Anime vibes, they said. This is going to have an anime vibe. I don't know. How are they going to pull this off?
Let's kill the KKK. Ooh woo.
It's not based on an anime.
Yeah.
Though.
Thank God.
Oh, I'm watching this. So I'm watching this in the chat. Somebody tell me if they've heard of this show. So I started watching this show on the Roku channel last night called Jeremiah.
You just have no standards.
No.
Roku.
The Roku
He just says that with a straight face, like, I'm watching Roku.
I've literally...
I'm watching the Roku channel.
I have every streaming service. Well, not every streaming service. But
And you choose Roku.
And I choose the ones where I can find these old forgotten shows. So this was apparently based on a comic book that I've never read, and it's a post-apocalyptic show from 2002 starring Luke Perry and Malcolm Jamal Warner. And I'm not kidding you, the first 2 episodes 10,000 times better than all 8 episodes of The Last of Us, and it was Showtime too. So it's actually, I'm like, there's all this cussing and stuff.
It's better than The Last of Us.
Yes.
That's a very low bar.
I'm just saying.
That's a very low bar.
It's good, okay? And it's a lot of fun. And the thing is if you go and watch the show, if anybody ever saw the show Revolution with, was it Billy Burns or whatever, and Tracy Spiridakos, it was like this show where all there's no sun, the country has just plunged into darkness and the world falls into chaos because electricity is basically just, there's no electricity anywhere.
I've just realized that you're in this show. Your purpose is you're the father that's not hip with it for Gen Z.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, I just sit here and laugh at all the stuff you're watching.
I recommend everybody, the first season, unfortunately, you'll have to watch it on Roku, where you're going to have 30
still
seconds.
funny.
But it's 3 ads. The older a show is, the less relevant it is, the less ads it has. So you get 3 30-second ads total throughout the whole thing. And it was on Showtime. And it was supposed to be appointment television before they decided right after the show was made. And it was made by J. Michael Straczynski, who did Babylon 5. Okay, I recommend everyone, if you liked The Last of Us or you hated The Last of Us, go check it out. But now you guys made fun of me and I lost the point that I was going to make. I was going to make a point.
About
I forgot what it was.
the Ku Klux Klan?
But I'm saying there is a way to do something that doesn't have to be over the top and on the nose. So this show is the perfect blend of kind of mild humor, but it's still serious material. It's the end of the world and stuff like that. But I had a better point to make, but you guys...
I think so.
Train of thought.
I think the point you were making is that you were talking about tone.
Yeah.
And you were saying that it doesn't have to be silly and slapstick, but it also doesn't have to be overtly serious. So they can tremble I don't think tremble's a word. They can walk the line.
Yeah, they can walk the line.
They will walk a fine line with the tone and still explore this concept, which is seemingly interesting.
And depending on how they advertise it, Michael B. Jordan is still a very well liked actor. So I could see this movie doing fine. Now the question is, it was sold to Warner Brothers as a package, so I don't think that they would spend money on Ryan Coogler and have it go to streaming. I think that this would end up going to the theaters. So it depends on what the advertising of it is like.
I thought vampires were over.
They kind of are. It's like zombies. Zombies are over too.
Oh, if I never see another zombie movie, it'll be too soon.
Yeah.
It's so overdone.
Yeah.
That and Pirates.
I mean, pirates are kind of due for a comeback, right?
No way.
Pirates are due for a comeback, just like Westerns.
They're just
Well, they
lame.
are making the Pirates movie without Johnny Depp, so.
All right,
Yeah, that'll be good.
You're gonna have to tell everyone what's going on with Northwest.
Yeah.
Oh,
Northwest is announcing a new album called Elementary School Dropout. So you get the reference, right? And they estimated that she could make up to $30,000 per TikTok video.
Jeez.
Good work if you can get it.
And she could really save up for that college fund if she puts out an album. And then this is weird. She did an interview with another child. Like a child was interviewing another child about their album, Elementary School Dropout. And they asked if the album will have any collabs with Ye. So I wanted to show Northwest's answer.
I gotta make sure I actually have that. That's this one, right?
Yeah.
I would like to apologize in advance because my wife willed this into existence.
Really?
Yeah, she's like,
responsible.
there was a song that says like, Miss Westy, bestie, or something like that. It's a line.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, this is literally so bad, it's gonna stick.
What's going on,
did,
guys?
yeah.
It's
It did.
Jazzy. Today I'm here with the one and only Northwest. North, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking. Well, I know they're coming out with a new album, so I wanted to know, like, how do you feel about coming out with your own album now, and what can everyone expect, and when is it gonna drop? Because we're all very excited.
It's gonna be great.
Is that song copyrighted?
Like,
It's in the background.
I
So
don't
we should be
know.
fine.
Okay. Are there going to be any kind of collabs with your dad on there?
Maybe we don't
Maybe.
know yet.
I have no
I
idea.
like the mysterious vibe you got going on there. Well, thank you so much for your time. Well, guys,
I
I'm
got a
here at
question
Northwest,
for
and we're having a great time. And until next time, what's going
At
on?
least Dan Schneider didn't produce this. We've got that going.
Who is this kid interviewing people at Rolling Loud?
She's got moxie.
She does, and I love how not media trained North is.
I got a question for you. So somebody said that Kanye is going to be working with Ice Spice on the new album.
Yeah,
So
well, it's not a
somebody
new
pointed
song.
Out, somebody pointed out the hypocrisy. They said, and I don't know if I would call this hypocrisy, where they said they were mad at Kim for
Setting up the play date
Yes.
between Ice
But
Spice
then
and
they're
North.
like, but Kanye works with Ice Spice. I'm like, yeah, but Kanye's an adult.
Kanye's an adult.
He can
Well,
work with Ice Spice.
he's mad at Nicki Minaj because Nicki isn't willing to release New Body.
Yeah.
That was from like years and years ago. So she doesn't want to release it, and he's like, okay, fine. I'm just gonna go ask Doja Cat and Ice Spice if they're willing to do your verse, and no word back yet. I don't know if Ice Spice or Doja Cat would be willing to work with him.
The other one's got a future in media. Very clearly,
For sure.
likes what they're doing and has like the desire to be in front of the camera. Just don't let anyone at Nickelodeon get a hold of them. And
She gets a single word answer, and she's like, that's such a great answer.
Well, I mean, that's kind of her job, right? To fill the
Yeah.
fill the silence. It was like, who was the was it Ashley Graham that interviewed Hugh? What the
What?
at the Oscars, or at the, what was it, Hugh
Grant?
And she's like asking him questions, and they were really bad questions, and he wasn't helping her at all. He was just like giving one word answers, and she didn't know how to cover for it. It actually is a skill set to be a personable interviewer.
Yeah.
What questions were
I
they?
don't even like. I just remember like he thought they were stupid. Like you could tell that he thought the interview questions were stupid because they were canned interview mainstream media questions, and he's just British and very, very forthright and didn't have any desire to like help her out of the jam she had found herself in. That girl will never find herself in that position because she knows what she's seemingly knows what she's
Get
doing.
this girl to the Met Gala
Exactly.
instantly.
Hugh Grant, thank you guys.
Yeah.
I almost said Hugh Laurie. It's a different person.
Different person.
All British people look the same.
Okay, also, we saw that Kanye and Bianca were out and about again.
The funniest
In
part about
just
this photo
the
is how she's wearing.
craziest
I'm saying,
attire.
as ugly as that color is as pants, it's how she's wearing it. That's the funniest part. It's like she
Yeah.
went out of her way to wear them badly.
They're like intentionally folded in this really awkward way that looks as unflattering as possible. Yeah, but that's their version of business casual, says TMZ.
Yep.
Yeah, well,
And the theories have been flying all over again about how this is his way of humiliating Kim and blah blah blah.
What did Colonel
the
Kurtz
psychoanalysis.
say? What did Colonel Kurtz say?
Colonel Kurtz has this theory that actually Kim and Kanye came up with a secret plan years ago to repair Kim's reputation by replacing her with someone new, making that replacement into a classless joke, aka Bianca Censori, so that Kim Kardashian looks like Grace Kelly in comparison. It honestly, like, it worked that
That's
way.
pretty diabolical.
I don't think that they hatched a plan for that to happen, but unintentionally that is what happened.
she really is female Shane Cashman. Huh?
She
Like,
is.
that theory.
Everything is a conspiracy.
Yeah.
Everything. And I love it.
Yep.
And I'm always willing to hear them out.
All right. Oprah has finally answered for her crimes of leaving Weight Watchers.
Well, no, here's a conspiracy. The Ozempic conspiracy is definitely a conspiracy. So Oprah Winfrey left the board of Weight Watchers and everyone was like, what's going on? And then she's in her skinny legend era, obviously because she's on Ozempic, but she
see
hasn't
that,
admitted to it yet.
Dunkin' Donuts changed the name of their small coffee to the Short King.
No, they
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, what are they going to call the tall one?
Do tall people have a positive nickname?
Not really.
Now we just crush.
Yeah. So Oprah Winfrey was getting interviewed by Jimmy Kimmel and said, I decided to leave Weight Watchers because this special was really important to me. And I wanted to be able to talk about whatever I wanted to talk about. Weight Watchers is, quote, now the business of being a weight health company that also administers drug medications for weight.
Okay.
I didn't want to have the appearance of any conflict of interest. And then
There is
she
something-
donated her Weight Watchers shares to the National Museum of African American History.
So Weight Watchers now is in the business of not just getting you healthy through working out and other means. Now they're endorsing
Drugs.
medications. There is no better kind of microcosm of the fall of America than just like
Yeah.
what was once 20 years ago a way something you could do on your own is now something that
Endorsed by
that
Big Pharma.
has to get involved with. It really is. It follows the line of America's down.
Definitely.
Modernity
yeah.
is truly terrifying.
It's just like, oh.
And then it says that
I'm a bit of a
in...
hypocrite because look, whenever I see baseball now, I'm like, let them use steroids. I do.
Yes.
I want all athletes to be jacked to the gills.
Oh my God.
I want the pitchers to be able to use baby oil and whatever shit they want to put on their hands to make the ball spin
Dude.
faster than the speed of light.
The
Just
best era was Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, and Mark McGwire just
Yes, it was-
knocking them
at
out.
least once or twice a month, I will go watch old home run derbies. And I've told this story. There's this one where Mark McGwire, he's just annihilating a stick of gum. Like he's like he looks like his face is going to fucking explode. And I'm like, this is from 1999, and I'm glued to it, watching it with popcorn. Like, just let all the players. And the
Let
same
them
thing
do
was
it.
true. Is like, and I get it. I'm going to push back a little bit because like I would like them to let the wrestlers do that too.
Yeah.
But the problem is
Oh, they
that
do.
wrestlers died at it's just unprecedented rates when there was no check on the steroids and everything like that. So I'm half kidding, but it was way more fun when you just let the players laissez-faire treatment of drugs in sports, I say.
But what about for the rest of the population?
I mean, I'm laissez-faire on drugs for most people anyways because I prefer people take responsibility
Well,
for
this
their own
says
actions. But
in
it's a different
December
discussion.
last year, Oprah Winfrey told People that she had decided to start taking a weight loss medication, which she did not identify. Wink, wink,
Wink,
nudge, nudge. After coming to the realization that weight management doesn't depend solely on a person's self-control.
Nice.
It does.
Refuse
Spoiler
to
alert.
take responsibility.
It does.
Responsibility.
I mean, if you want to keep the weight off, it definitely has to
By
do
the way,
with your
have you
self-control.
guys heard about the side effects of Ozempic? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if we should because like
No, we've talked
I'm not a
about
doctor.
it.
Like don't you like poop your pants uncontrollably?
Yeah, I mean, it makes people projectile vomit and
But you're skinny, right?
But it makes you
Hey, man.
skinny. It makes you look like 10 years older.
As long as you're hot.
Poor Sharon Osbourne is still like sick as a dog because she took Ozempic and then she stopped taking it, and now she can't gain weight anymore, and she's about to die.
I was
Really?
just
Like, yeah, she can't gain weight.
Was she about to die?
Even though she's in like she looks really bad. She looks really bad. And she went off Ozempic because it was like messing her up, and she can't get any weight on.
Other people is like, I'll be skinny. I don't care if I die. I
think that's where they're at, though.
Yeah,
like,
it's like-
I think they're okay with dying young, but
just
dying
hot
skinny.
girl summer.
Yeah.
So I was having Olivia watch Smallville. There's an episode with Amy Adams, young Amy Adams. We're talking because this show came out in 2001.
Amy Adams.
She played Lois Lane.
Do you remember
She
her?
was in Arrival. She played Lois Lane.
Oh, yeah, Arrival.
And in this episode, Jody is fat, and Jody has an eating problem, and then gets skinny through kryptonite. And and basically
Really?
she starts like eating people, like eating the body fat off of people. And basically the whole thing, she's like, I just wanted to be skinny. I was like, they wouldn't make this episode not in a million years. Yeah, overweight teen Jody submits to a diet of meteor-infected vegetables from her father's greenhouse that magically makes her thin, but she has an intense craving for body fat, and she just eats people.
See, this is the predictive programming for cannibalism that we've been talking about.
It's,
I mean, it's due.
and she and the best part is like she doesn't want she eats like, you know, it also ends up becoming like the sad commentary on like horny teenage boys. She eats the boys who are like, oh, she's thin now, I'll totally, like, I kid you not, that you do hear the term chubby chaser, which I hadn't heard in a very long time. So she eats the boys who are obviously just trying to have sex with her because now she's thin. But Peter, he's not. So she's like, no, go away. I like you too much, because she's fighting the urge to now eat him.
Oh, okay.
It's hilarious.
So she's basically a vampire.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, if she had just gotten some Ozempic rather than, you know, meteor-infused vegetables with kryptonite, then maybe perhaps she wouldn't have eaten all those people.
I feel like fat characters in TV shows now aren't portrayed as people who eat more than everyone else. Like, we're just going with the narrative that they are just fat for like literally no reason.
Dude, I truly think one of the worst things in society is putting fat people in like exercise commercials. Like, it's
Well,
so,
I mean, they are
so
the target.
counterproductive.
They're the target audience. However, they're not the aspirational marketing
Yeah, I
tactic
mean-
that you're going to use. Like, this is what you could look like eventually if you.
Typically, marketing is like, hey, this is the end result.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Also, I mean, did you see the thing the other week about like pain equity from Advil?
No.
Okay, so basically they're advertising now that like pain is racist, and the idea is that like,
Okay,
when you
go.
go to your doctor, 3 out of 4 black people say that like their doctor didn't believe them when they said they were in pain,
Oh my
which
God.
that's the more fair characterization. Everybody else is being kind of, you know, obtuse and saying like, oh, so pain is racist. Now that's not what this thing is saying.
Okay, but even
it's
the
still stupid.
real
It's
premise
still
is just stupid. And
but
like,
the point is like before they were doing Advil ads with like overweight tennis players, and I'm like, at first I laughed, and then I'm like, yeah, it's probably hard on the knees.
yeah, that would hurt.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a big pharma ploy.
Yeah, of
obviously.
course. Pain equity. All right. So Oprah, just get off the juice. Just go back to Weight Watchers. Help make America whole again.
I never even understood what Weight Watchers was.
I mean, I've known so many women that do this. So they kind of sell you their own brand food.
yeah.
And so you eat similar things that you crave for. So like you get chocolate, but you get Weight Watchers chocolate. So it's like specifically measured, and it has like the specific calorie count. And so when you're eating you're eating through their meal plan, and since it's so like calorie deficient and intensive, you still get the things you crave for, but at a lower caloric rate.
Which is funny because now like meal prep is huge now for everyone,
Yeah.
not just, you know, like Factor meals are a huge thing. I see advertisements for them.
Don't you guys have hot Latino wives?
to cook for you?
I pity you.
Unfortunately, no. No, I don't.
They're out trying to sabotage you and keep you eating.
Couldn't relate.
All right, so Oprah, get off the juice. All right, what the hell's going on with Bobbi Althoff?
Yeah, Bobbi Althoff is just living her best divorcee life now. Now that she has split up from her husband, who filed for divorce from her a few months ago, she's hanging out with every rapper in existence.
Trying to. She's not
Trying to, at
succeeding.
least. Recently, she was kicked out of a party at the South by Southwest Festival. That was a party put on by Drake, her rumored lover. The initial interview that everyone saw of Bobbi Althoff was the one where she's in this hotel room with Drake. They're laying in bed together. They're separated, okay, but they're laying in bed together doing this interview, and she's a married woman and she's a mother. It's definitely inappropriate, definitely not a good look. Well, she just tried to get into Drake's party, and Drake wasn't even there, by the way.
Cool.
She got kicked out, and people are saying that they have no idea how she ended up there. They said, if you look up past history between her and Drake, it's easy to see why she wasn't invited and why she was removed as soon as possible. I have no idea how she got in because she wasn't invited by organizers or hosts of the event. So I guess she was on the blacklist.
Yeah.
She's been blacklisted in Drake's social circles.
She is really unbecoming of a celebrity, isn't she?
Well, more unbecoming is that recently rapper Rich the Kid posted a couple of pictures of her wearing his merch, and she was making the Illuminati hand symbol over her eyes. Very weird.
What is it with rappers being like little baby kid?
Little, yeah.
Have you noticed? Sometimes
Little everything.
I think there's a guy that's called Little Baby, literally.
Lil Baby, Da Baby.
Da Baby.
Those are different people.
Yes, they're different people, but yeah,
Goo Goo Gaga is that
Yeah.
the next one?
that is weird, right?
Baby D Bottle.
The Rich the Kid was all right like 8 years ago.
Well, she's working her way up the ladder. Okay, she's clout chasing, but it's a process. You need to trust that she's just gonna clout chase all the way up to the top.
What she should do the bed interview for all her interviews, but she should travel to to meet them and do them in public places.
You kinda
Where she
look
just
alike.
drops the bed in like the middle of a street and just like
I still think the worst part of that interview is the fact that she admitted she missed her daughter's birthday for it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Girl bossing.
That was immediately like that was the beginning of the end of your.
Sorry, only men are
marriage.
supposed to miss their kids' birthday parties for work.
Like I'm saying it's sad no matter what, but
Cheers.
yeah, she literally sold her marriage for fame.
Too busy girl
essentially.
bossing.
Yeah, this person said she really divorced her husband and abandoned her kids just so she could hang out with new rappers every week.
Yeah, well, enjoy.
Well, she's trying to work her way over to Northwest so that her kid can hang out with Northwest.
Nice.
Exactly. The play date is already being devised. And then there was this other clip I found of her where she just straight up admits that she was an industry plant and that the Illuminati recruited her and asked her to sacrifice her child. So let's play that clip.
What?
Whether this clip is real or not is.
I mean, she's obviously doing a bit, but how much of it is a bit?
Here we go.
That's the question.
Are you an industry?
Oh, the audio is.
So what happened
ear?
was I was at home like a few months ago, and I was just sitting there.
Sitting
and I got a call, and then I also got a knock at the door at the same time, and they were like, "Hello, we're the industry," and I was like, "What does that mean?" And they were like, "You can't ask any questions," and I was like, "Okay," and they were like, "You're gonna blow up. You just have to follow our lead and give us 78% of your money that you make from this. Very fair offer." And then they also said that I had to have
Very
another
fair offer, 75% for them.
Yeah, because I wasn't making that much before.
Okay.
So it's like they're entitled to it. And I didn't ask any questions. They just said, you have to give us the next child you have too. So
So that's like Illuminati thing.
kind of, but it's the industry instead. And they planted me.
Why are you?
Well,
I
there
mean,
you
so
go.
There you have it. It's settled. The question is settled.
I
She's
really
an industry
do
plant.
hate the when they use the Shure mics without the stands.
Amazing journalism
She's
by
touching,
PCC
like,
once again.
This part of the mic, which would just drive me nuts.
Oh, that's like part of her brand, though. She always does that with the mic. Yeah.
All right, guys, what would you like to see? Cringe or cue to the day?
Can we please start with cringe and then
The cringe isn't that bad. It's just going to make you hurt if you had lots of money. This might not bother you, but if you imagine having a nice car,
Oh yeah, I've seen this.
yeah, it's not
I
good.
haven't. Let's
Okay,
see.
here we go.
Oh wait, we got a $20 from Gordon Shumway. Mary, Weight Watchers is just a meal plan with calorie counting incorporated. They just do the research for you, and their meals are low calorie and low fat. That being said, their stuff has a lot of processed stuff. Yeah, I would assume that, but do the work yourself.
Here we go. I'm muting this so that we don't get copyrighted here, Jones.
Can I sing it?
Yes.
What?
Okay.
This is her car, right?
I have no idea. She doesn't look like that would be her car.
Thank you for that, Dane.
She looks like she would drive a Tesla.
That windshield folded like saran wrap.
Yeah, that was depressing to watch the first time around.
I don't care about cars, so it didn't make me feel anything.
You care if you. I mean, it's more about think of just flushing a whole ton of money down.
You know what? I don't care about cars either. I'm very happy with my Camry.
She's TikTok dancing.
And I feel like it's something I can't relate to other men with.
Like liking cars.
Yeah.
Based.
We got a $20 one here from It Is I. It says, how many crisis parties to get married to put her bangs backwards with a hair clip for an entire episode? Also, Dane is the real cute of the day.
Okay, how many parties,
Thank
guys?
you.
Let's go with 18.
Hot. Okay.
I don't know. It just came to me.
You want to do 10? 12?
18.
15.
15. Okay, 15.
This episode.
That would look weird too.
Now.
Because your hair, you have a very specific look for your hair. Just have it be completely different one day would be weird.
My hair matters to me.
I don't understand what they're asking for. What do
They want me to clip my bangs onto my head, I guess.
What does that mean?
Like backwards. Like up here.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I could just wear a hairband. That would do the same
I guess.
Cute of the day. We got a couple here. This one from Bucky Ducky the Stagkin says, I got a new lens for my camera with all kinds of zoom. I had to test it out with some duck pics.
Look at this artistry.
It is.
That was pretty good. Look at that duck.
Beautiful.
Whoa.
Hold on, let me go. There we go.
Extreme close up.
Yep. Whoa.
Oh, they're so weird looking.
They're actually so scary once you look up
That's
close.
a hell of a photo. All right, let's do one more here. Guys, remember, hashtag PCC Pets and tag me in it so that we can add them to Cute of the Day. Do one more here. This one is from Jose. Says, Kobe on the left, Kazuma on the right. Second is Kazuma in front of Kobe in the back.
Cute. Aw.
Oh, that's a good one.
I can't Taco Bell.
All right.
Wait, what?
You're too
He
young to
wants
remember
Taco Bell.
that advertising.
Have you ever seen that
campaign.
commercial?
What commercial?
Yo quiero Taco Bell. It's like a Chihuahua being like, I want Taco Bell.
Oh, okay.
Really? You haven't seen it?
No.
Dude, it's classic.
The good old
Never
days.
saw
The
that.
good old days. Dane knows.
89 cents.
I think I still have, I don't have it anymore, but all the way up until my mom passed, when I was cleaning out that apartment, she had an old Taco Bell cup that was just under the sink.
You gotta keep that.
Yeah, it's and it said Yo quiero Taco Bell on it.
I always
Eat great, even late was the slogan back then.
Brett once confessed to me that he has cups from old Pizza Hut, and I swore that he was gonna give me one for my birthday. Spoilers, he did not.
He's hoarding them.
I'm gonna
All for yourself.
put them to use elsewhere. Okay, so this summer, my plan, I'm going home to visit family over the summer, and I'm going to Pizza Hut Classic, where you get the buffet and you get to have the cups. You can go
And you're going to steal them,
Yeah,
right?
I'm going to walk out with them. Yeah,
Give me one. Give me one.
I can do that. Or I can be like, how much for the cups? I mean,
They're going to play this in court. This is your
Yes.
confession.
but the point is, if you go online right now,
Bitcoin.
there's a Substack that I found that has the listed addresses of all the Pizza Hut classics in the country.
Yeah.
There aren't any in Maryland, sadly, but there is a couple in Virginia.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So guys, go and check that out if you want to go and experience Pizza Hut Classic. I'm doing that over the
Where's the one in Virginia?
summer. I'd have to look it up.
There were several,
Yeah.
but they're all really far away. I
Yeah.
looked them up.
But
I'll go.
when I go home to visit family in the summer, I'm definitely I'm getting a rental car and I'm driving It's
your mission.
It's my, yeah.
It's a worthy pilgrimage.
I believe in you.
It's for my birthday.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go that far, but you can do it.
That's how I'm spending my birthday. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. Mary, you're going to have to tell everybody what the hell is going on with the documentary.
Yeah, the full documentary, Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV, has finally aired. And it's really quite shocking. I think that if you guys are even marginally aware of Dan Schneider and Amanda Bynes and what became a lot of these child stars, you definitely should give it a watch. There was a lot in there that I wasn't aware of, even though I've researched this stuff before. But yeah, it was really interesting, and Drake Bell finally did speak out and reveal that he, in fact, was the victim of Brian Peck, a dialogue coach at Nickelodeon. And he went into detail about what happened to him and how and when, and how it changed the trajectory of his career. And, you know, it's sort of hard to watch because this documentary kind of tries to end on a triumphant note. But really, it falls flat because you know that the entertainment industry has not fundamentally changed since.
That's the hardest part.
Since this generation of child stars grew up, it's still like this. And there is still a Dan Schneider out there, or many of them, or many Brian Pecks out there in the Hollywood sphere. And they're not going to get caught. Or if they will, they'll be replaced just as soon with other predators. And that's just the unfortunate reality. And they tried to end it on, you know, giving out like possible solutions and like, let's brainstorm on how to like fix this problem of child stars getting exploited. And I just feel like maybe it's not as simple as that, you know?
It's not anywhere near as simple as that.
You can't just invite therapists and social workers and HR representatives onto a Hollywood set and just magically fix all of these problems.
Phil used to make a good point when he would talk about like abuse in the Catholic Church, and he would say it's not a Catholic thing. What it is that predators will look for places with access to children. Right. Mm-hmm. And as long as there are shows that are going to have children in them, there will be predators who will look to take advantage
also,
of that.
like the entertainment industry is where you're going to find the most toxic parents, which makes it even easier. So that's why this, I think, has a specific issue.
Rita in the chat even mentions Bryan Singer. Well, Peck is connected to Bryan Singer. He had cameos in multiple X-Men movies and did commentary on X-Men movies with Bryan Singer. Bryan Singer, who is notorious for being allegedly accused of these things. So I don't think he's ever been proven in like a court of law, but he hasn't worked in quite a few years, I think since 2019, and it's kind of an open secret in that industry that he's viewed that way.
My issue is that there's some things that are unavoidable, but some things that, for me at least, they're commonsensical. Like it makes sense that men, you know, we're not as into child rearing as women are, or at least we don't have the instinct, you know, from my anecdotal experience, to like enjoy like the company of children as much as women. So when there's like very men that volunteer to be long and hard hours with very little pay around children, it's like highly suspicious. Yeah. Like I don't know how that's not the first like odd.
So this documentary is broken up into several pieces.
Yeah,
right? So
I want to
four
like
parts. Let's go through and kind of give everyone a description of what each part entails.
Yeah, so first the episode 1 and 2 aired together, and that basically covered the way that Dan Schneider got his start, how he was hired at Nickelodeon, and he was the creator of All That, which was basically SNL made for an audience of kids with a cast of all kids. And they talked about the initial favorite of Dan Schneider, a girl named Katrina Johnson, and she was essentially the precursor to Amanda Bynes. And I think that, you know, the red flags were there when it came to Dan Schneider and his toxicity. They were definitely there, but I think he wasn't as powerful at that time. And they still had a director who was a middleman. His name was Virgil Fabian, and he eventually down the line was fired. But Dan Schneider wasn't fully, you know, Joker mode. He wasn't fully like drunk with power by that period of time. But, you know, you still saw a bunch of examples of weird sexual innuendo jokes that were in All That. And it was just very common. They talked about Dan Schneider's misconduct in the writer's room. A couple of staff writers were interviewed for this one, and they said that he would play pornography on his computer in the workplace, and he would constantly make sexual jokes and write sexual jokes for children to perform. I think it's pretty clear that Dan Schneider was and is possibly still just a very psychologically depraved person, very perverted, and his porn addiction influenced everything that he wrote and everything that he talked about.
There's a $20 super chat here from Pat the Plumber. Says PCC to round out the day with DANEFONT to boot. Let's go.
To boot.
Smell it up.
Glad to oblige.
I don't know if I saw this in the documentary or if I saw it on Twix, but there was like a reel. It was from Ariana Grande, and it was...
That's Ariana Grande for those English speakers out there.
And it was her scenes like without the laugh track.
Yeah.
And it was so jarring. It was so jarring.
Yeah.
I remember there was this one. It's like, oh, I wonder if you could squeeze juice out of a potato.
Milking a potato.
And it was just like so on the nose. I'm like, what's going on?
No, that
here?
was like way later.
That's
But
the
this
later
is
days.
like, this is the beginning of a pattern of behavior that all led up to that. And it was
Yeah.
like over a decade.
It's
Where
like, I wonder if
people
I
were
could drink
just-
water upside down. And I'm telling you, like the imagery is so like how
She starts like literally sucking her own toes for
Yeah.
kids content. I mean, it's just really obviously intentional that it's a sexual innuendo. And
Yeah.
maybe Dan Schneider will deny that. But
Let's
anyway.
go back to the beginning.
So these female writers, they are definitely adding some of their own stories that I think don't need to be there. It's kind of unnecessary, but it paints a bigger picture. Like, yes, we get like Dan Schneider is kind of a sociopath. Like, he treats people badly. One of the staff writers said that they were writing a scene that involved high schoolers. So she started telling this story about her in high school, and she finished speaking, and Dan Schneider responded, oh, you know what would be really funny? If you bent over the table and pretended to get sodomized, and like you told the story over again while you're pretending to get sodomized. And then she's like, no, and then he keeps pushing it, and she literally did it. She literally admitted that she did that. And there were just other, I mean, it almost like, I'm sorry, but it makes me laugh because it's like, this is a grown person. I don't really have a huge problem with the fact that Dan Schneider was kind of a jerk to adults. I have a problem with the way he treated kids who can't stand up for themselves.
It's something they talked about in the documentary a lot. That was like, whenever they had like real big and harsh news, they would be like, parents out of the room right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they would give the news to the kids. And like, naturally, like years later, they would have their wherewithal be like, oh, wow, that was inappropriate or whatever. Like, why wasn't my parents involved? But it's like, I don't know. They're just so devious.
Your parent should have said, like, if you're asking me to leave the room, like, I'm not leaving the room.
True,
you know?
but it's what you said, like the worst parents.
They said, you know, obviously due to child labor laws, these kids have to, you know, do school hours and they have limited work hours. Their parent or guardian has to be on set with them in either eye shot or ear shot at all times, which, you know, definitely is a rule that was broken a lot. And these kids were not treated well. Dan Schneider was a jerk to them, and that's the least of all of the rest of the allegations they get into. So general workplace toxicity is less egregious than everything else this documentary covers.
And that leads up to basically Jason Handy.
There's the first arrest.
Yes.
Yeah. This is April 2003. So Jason Handy, and yes, that's his real
What a name. Uh-huh.
That's his real name. This is nominal determinism. I'm telling you, like, this is like physiognomy, but for names. You should know that this guy's a red flag. So Jason Handy is a production assistant, and he got arrested because someone, we don't know who it was, tipped off law enforcement that he was creeping on the kids. And basically, police raided his apartment and found over 10,000 images of CP in his apartment. And not only that, but he had Ziploc bags that had different young girls' names on them. He had, like, for instance, the underwear of a 7-year-old girl. He kept letters from one of the girls on the cast named Brandy.
He would go to church with him, or
he was invited into this girl's home,
Yeah.
one of the guest stars, and molested this girl. I mean, it's just insane what you think these parents are doing with their kids, and they're not protecting their kids. But I mean, he even had a journal where he was just saying, like, very explicitly, you know, I'm a pedophile. I'm going to assault one of these children on cast. Like, he was very obviously a bad person. So he got arrested.
It's hard to dance to this. Have this conversation.
Thank you, guys. So he got arrested, and then
No dancing.
you know, they told the kids, and then it was just like, all right, business as usual, get back to work. And then they start to set up the picture for, you know, Amanda Bynes as the next rising star in all that. And Dan Schneider discovered her and just, you know, wanted to get his grubby little hands all over her because she's a product. And that, you know, fast forward, she gets her own show. She gets the Amanda show, and she's starting to grow up, and she just has this really weirdly close relationship with Dan Schneider, and like just kind of physically too close and emotionally too close.
And too much time alone behind
much time
closed doors
alone.
without parents or anyone there to know and corroborate exactly what it said. One of the ways in which this documentary kind of fails is that there are no firsthand accounts from Amanda Bynes or from certain other cast members, which would have really driven home the point. And you get these secondhand accounts, which are powerful, but not as powerful as if they were able to get, you know, straight from the horse's mouth per se. You know, you got Drake Bell's,
Right.
But, you know, the stuff about Amanda Bynes is all implied because there isn't any, you know, evidence or proof of what happened behind those doors.
But what they're really good at is showing you the stuff that's kind of in plain sight.
Yes.
Because with her in particular, I remember they show this one scene where she's in a bathing suit in a hot tub, and he's like fully clothed in a hot tub. Because like he's fat
Not
and gross.
just that, but the massages.
I know, but that one was particularly on the nose because she basically says, so I'm in a hot tub with the executive producer or whatever his title is. So do I get a raise? And it's like, well, it's a joke, but it's like you're saying it.
They find multiple quotes from Dan Schneider over the years where he's like, I have a frightening amount of influence over these children. He said, like, I can put them in whatever nightmare situations I want to. And he's joking, but he's not actually joking, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, she just has this weirdly close relationship with him that continues on. And then as she gets older, and she's starting to be seen in more of an adult light, and her career is changing, he wants to follow her. And she eventually makes a petition for emancipation from her parents because she's having relationship problems with her parents. And she goes to Dan for help, as well as other legal representatives in her team, because Dan is part of her team. It's unclear how that went down, but it's weird to say this 16-year-old girl ran away from home and called this guy first. Yeah. He's like a second father to her. It's weird. So I don't think that the documentary fails in that they don't have first-hand accounts, though, because they obviously, with the scope of what they're doing, they obviously asked all of these people for interviews. Yeah. And the majority of them said no. They probably asked every last cast member for interviews. Amanda Bynes probably said no. Miranda Cosgrove probably said no. Josh Peck probably said no. Victoria Justice, Ariana Grande, all of these people. They're all of the most powerful ones, actually. They're all saying no to interviews. And because Amanda Bynes, she probably doesn't even want to remember anything. So why would she do an interview? It's just really sad what's become of her. But anyway, episodes 3 and 4, it kind of ends on this cliffhanger, and then they go into Drake Bell and Brian Peck. So Drake Bell was on all that. Brian Peck was a dialogue coach, an acting coach for the cast members, and he is definitely seen as a red flag by Drake Bell's dad. Drake Bell's dad is his manager, and he is extremely protective. Unlike a lot of these parents, Drake Bell's dad was just a golden example of how to protect your kid.
So much of what you saw in these documentaries was the failure of the adults around these children to really, really protect their own children. And his dad was, yes, the perfect example of somebody who did everything right and still ended up being driven a wedge between him and his child because of the awful behavior of this pedophile who wanted to get between him and his child because he wanted access to him.
We
got $20.
$20 from Igninoct and Air. I don't know if I said that right. Earthlings will send their children to get exploited for a fleeting chance at fame. We laugh at you from our child molestation-free utopia that is the moon. We have advanced far beyond your third-dimensional television.
Must be better over there.
Sounds like it.
nice. Does
Somebody
sound
in the
nice.
chat, somebody asked if Josh Peck is related to Brian Peck. They are not related.
No, just total coincidence that they have the same last name, but I thought the same thing too. But yeah, so basically Brian Peck was trying to get closer and closer to Drake, but Drake's dad was always like, no, like stay away. 20 Justin 1 said the sexual jokes didn't bother me as much in this doc compared to the PDF file stuff. Early 2000s kids cartoons like SpongeBob have a ton of sexual innuendos, and some of the best jokes on that show that are adult jokes. Okay.
I think it's the physical nature of the jokes, like in a lot of ways, right? It's putting the kids in that position as opposed to just telling a joke from a cartoon perspective. Does that make sense? A kid
Definitely more.
Yes, there's a difference there. I think.
Yeah.
I agree because
But I do
More
like on a
inappropriate.
hierarchy of problems, the actual PDF file stuff is
Yeah.
far scarier. But just saying that it
True.
shows you what the culture was there.
because it's also part of like humiliating them because it's like, oh, they're unaware right now that they're being objectified
Right,
sexually.
right.
It's I don't know. It's like
That's
some sick
Definitely
satisfaction
part of
from it.
I think it's like a humiliation ritual,
Yeah.
basically. And it's the fact that the kids are innocent and don't know what it is that
disturbing.
makes it funnier to adults. And I find that disgusting. So over time, Drake says that Brian Peck basically poisoned him against his own dad. And Drake Bell eventually was convinced to fire his dad as his manager, start living with his mom. And his mom is... This is the
Checked
most infuriating part of the documentary. Drake Bell's dad warned his mom about Brian Peck. He said, this guy is a red flag. Do not let Drake be alone with Brian Peck.
Mom didn't
and
care.
mom didn't listen.
When we were watching this, I was so angry at the
Yeah.
mom.
So
Same.
The
infuriating.
dad went on, was willing to go on record on this documentary, talk about all that he did to try and protect his son, only to be essentially removed from his own son's life and basically given his own son to a predator because he had no way of protecting him.
Yeah. And
And the mom,
you can
like,
see
the
like
worst part was like the mom's like didn't want to drive to LA, so I'm gonna let this guy who my ex-husband specifically warned against do it for me.
It feels. I mean, obviously, I don't know the couple, but it just feels like it was her getting a one up on him. It was like, I'm gonna do the opposite of what you asked for. Like, look at the cost, man.
that's a good point. It does seem like vindictive in a sense, but I mean, who's to say? Because Drake Bell's mom didn't get interviewed. You just see that
I mean,
Drake's dad is just in so much pain just talking about it, and you can see like he's one of the good parents, one of
Even-
very, very few.
Even when Peck was caught, Drake wouldn't tell him that it was him that was the one being abused.
Initially, yeah.
Initially.
Yeah.
what's also incredible, it's they talk in length about how these people go and set up these situations, and so much of it is like complete isolation from them, from other people, except the person in question that wants to do these devious stuff. Like he wanted them to like crash on his couch. And at one point he said like, I need you to convince Dan Schneider for me to be your dad on Drake and Josh. I mean, that's like so many levels. So like not only,
Right.
so he wants to keep an eye on him at work, outside of work.
I saw somebody, and to your point, I saw somebody in the chat say like it's always the moms. Well, one of the few moms that was looking out for Drake was his girlfriend's mother, who noticed that Peck was calling him 430 times at his girlfriend's house, and she's like, that's not normal. She had to pull Drake aside and say, what's going on? And then she had to be the one to try and talk to his family about it because his mom wasn't looking out for him.
Yeah, because Brian Peck was essentially just harassing Drake Bell at this point, and he eventually comes out with the truth to his mom. They go to the police. They get a full confession from Brian Peck over the phone, and he's just like, you just basically told everyone what you did. So then this goes to trial, and the most, I think, like second most infuriating thing that you learn about this story is that Brian Peck gets support from about 50 people on his side of the courtroom the day of the verdict. 50 people. And for Drake Bell, it was just his mom and his brother on his side of the courtroom. And then he gets 41 character recommendation letters sent to the judge by his friends and acquaintances in the industry.
Yep.
And that includes celebrities. So I wanted to go to that list of people that gave him character letters. It includes stars. So here they are. Only some of the 41 people who did it. James Marsden,
he's in Sonic the Hedgehog movies.
Yeah, James Marsden, Taran Killam, Alan Thicke, Thomas DeSanto, Ron Melendez, Ryder Strong, Will Friedle.
Both of Boy Meets World.
Joanna Kearns, Kimmy Robertson, Rich Carell, and Beth Carell. And there were obviously many more, but they were all writing these character letters in the most insidious language, saying that this is out of Brian Peck's character, and I can only imagine that he was put under duress and he was tempted to do what he did.
Also, but beyond that, it was fair to point out, like, there was a point where Drake's dad points out this behavior to the people on set, and they said, well, he's gay, you must just be bigoted.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I'm telling you, it's the tactics.
Yeah.
Like it's the oldest playbook in the world.
Yeah.
So I mean,
they gaslit him and said it's not that your son's in danger, it's that you're homophobic.
Just think of modernity. Like how much of this is like, no, we'll take care of it. You remove yourself from the process entirely. I mean,
this is like you should have been seen as a warning sign for what was to come in Hollywood.
Birth control.
Take your birth control. Ultimately, though, Brian Peck got 16 months in prison.
And then went right back to work at Disney.
Right back, dude.
And then Disney hired him for Sweet Life of Zack and Cody immediately after.
This is, as much as I complain about the internet, one of the things the internet has going for it is that the information travels quicker now. And in some cases, that can be a bad thing because misinformation passes really fast. But it can also be a good thing because accurate information will also pass faster. And nowadays, the hope would be that in the age of the internet and social media, Drake Bell points out, he goes, there was no Twitter or TMZ following you to and from the courtroom every day. Well, that's good for the victim who doesn't want to be bothered on the way to the courtroom, who's going through something traumatic enough. But it's also good for the criminal who then doesn't have to worry about the scrutiny that would later come when the internet came about.
There's two things I deduce from this. It's that number one, it really seems like Hollywood is a sick cult that protects their own, like to the detriment of, I don't know, everyone. And the second thing is like, there's just a statistic that everyone likes to tout, and is that, homes without fathers tend to have more of these things happen. And then it was Drake's father that could discern like kind of the energy from this individual. And man, that's why I am in my personal life, whenever I have a female friend that asks me to like a recommendation of like, hey, like I'm single and I want to date someone, I always tell them, have your brothers or your father like discern, like have the closest man to you should judge their character, because I don't know what it is about us, like we sniff it out of each other. And I don't know.
Well, it depends, because then you can see that Amanda Bynes' father was clearly very in cahoots with Dan Schneider, and
well, that's why I mean the closest, like
it's just a lot of these parents are just totally toxic and selfish, and imagine the pressure of being a kid who's responsible for your family's income. I mean, I know it's the law that you have to have a parent or guardian on set at all times, but that means that parent or guardian can't have a job. So that means that
they're dependent on,
even though your parent is theoretically there to protect you, they are still dependent on you staying there. So they also can't protect you. You can't protect yourself, and your parent can't protect you.
I think what happened with Drake is a perfect microcosm again of this whole situation, which is that they can put all the safeguards up that they want. They can institute all of the rules, all of the policies. A motivated predator will find a way around it if given the opportunity. And the number one stopgap that you can put between you and a predator is a parent who cares, pays attention, and unfortunately has to be willing to walk away for the safety of their child.
Yeah, and far too often that's just simply not the case.
But also, it's not just that. Should we just get into how they're protecting their own here?
Right. Yeah. So in the reactions to Quiet on Set, I've seen that the media is helping Dan Schneider run a damage control campaign to recover his reputation after a lot of people have rediscovered all of his wrongdoing. And he recently did an exclusive interview that was released by The Hollywood Reporter. And here is just the most obviously pre-scripted, possibly even paid for interview I might have ever seen. It's about 20 minutes of bullshit, and every question was screened beforehand. Mm-hmm. Dan Schneider has scripted answers for every last one of them. But let's hear him out firstly on why were you getting your coworkers to give you massages?
Here we go.
Let's talk about the massages.
Okay.
Watching the content yesterday, it was disturbing.
It was wrong. It was wrong that I ever put anybody in that position.
Look at him.
It was the wrong thing to do. I'd never do it today. I'm embarrassed that I did it then. I apologize to anybody that I ever put in that situation. And even additionally, I apologize to the people who were walking around Video Village or wherever they happened, because there were lots of people there who witnessed it who also may have felt uncomfortable. So I owe them an apology as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he addresses that he was a big meanie and he needed to be nicer to people at about 3 minutes in.
Yeah.
Let's look at that.
To those people, because I hate that anybody worked for me and didn't have a good time. You know me. You've been on my sets.
Yes, he does know you. That's
They're
the problem.
friends.
I've had
That's
some
the problem
employees that have worked for me
in this case.
for 10 years, some more than 20 years, who would work with me again. But not everybody. There's still a significant number that didn't have a great time working for me. So my batting average isn't nearly high enough in that area. And the way they wouldn't get the best of me is that I would let the pressure of doing 40 or even more episodes per year, I would let that pressure get to me, which a good boss should never, ever do.
Was there specific things that you were doing?
Sure. I would snap at people sometimes. Mm-hmm. I would be snarky when I could have given them a nicer answer. I would not give people the time that they needed. I would be in too big a hurry to get on to the next thing I had to do.
Okay,
and
let's just address that though. So Dan Schneider is a jerk with a big ego. I really think that is the least of our worries after watching Quiet on Set.
I've tried to so one of the things I was trying to explain is that look, you have to kind of sector it off into different things. Watching pornography on set, ridiculously inappropriate and wrong. Getting massages from people on set, ridiculously inappropriate and wrong, and criminal with the kids, right? Like if they can't consent to that. Okay, all of these things. But the idea of yelling at people on set, like to be a director, to be a showrunner, as you said in your tweet, and it is true that a lot of them have to be tyrants because it is a massive undertaking with a lot of people involved, and it requires that one person with a lot of power to kind of consolidate that power and move the ship as it needs to go. Unfortunately, that's what allows this level of stress to build up, power to kind of all come together, and it's released in really, really bad and inappropriate ways.
Yeah, I felt like this documentary toward the end tried to downplay that Dan Schneider was talented. Like, you don't need to downplay the fact that he was good at his job in order to make him seem like a bad guy. He was obviously incredible at making shows. They were massively successful. They were part of my childhood. Yeah. And I loved those shows, and I still watch those shows. They were great, and he actually proved that he deserved to be there, but he abused his power. That makes Nickelodeon look worse.
Also, the vibe that I get from this is the same vibe that I got from Epstein. That's like, this person is the central bad in everything. Everything begins with him and everything ends with him. And now that we know that, everything's good.
That's the thing. That's the deceptive
right. So it's obviously not that.
Yeah.
It's obviously because. Sorry, I'm too close to the mic probably. If it were that, then why is Disney implicated as well when they do this thing of like the Sweet Life of Second Coda? It's like, it's industry wide. It's a set of behavior. Like it's this ancestral group that just insists on this.
And people are labeling him a pedophile. There's no evidence given in this that happened because, like I said, there's no interview with Amanda Bynes that talks about this, and making those claims without evidence would also be a legal implication for her, would it not? For anyone.
Yeah, as far as we know, no one has accused Dan Schneider of any type of molestation.
After all of the stuff came out about Drake Bell, the person that Drake Bell talked to was Dan Schneider, who was the one who said, he's gone, you don't have to worry about it, you did nothing wrong, right? So that they actually are, I was surprised they actually left that in there. I'm honestly surprised they didn't omit that.
Well, Dan Schneider took a liking more to the little girls on set, so I think that Drake Bell was just going to be fine around Dan Schneider. Yep. But yeah, then at 4 minutes 15 seconds, he addresses the sexual innuendo jokes that he wrote in kids TV.
Thousands of jokes have been told.
Yeah.
But currently where we are, some people think that some of those jokes are inappropriate for children. What do you think of that?
All these jokes that you're speaking of, that the show covered over the past 2 nights, every one of those jokes was written for a kid audience because kids thought they were funny and only funny. Okay? Now we have some adults looking back at them 20 years later through their lens, and they're looking at them and they're saying, I don't think that's appropriate for a kid show. And I have no problem with that. If that's how anyone feels, let's cut those jokes out of the show. Just like I would have done 20 years ago or 25 years ago. I cut it. I want my shows to be popular. I want everyone to like. The more people who like the shows, the happier I am. Yeah. So if there's anything in a show that needs to be cut because it's upsetting somebody, let's cut it.
So I think it's big for you to say with your work, if it's viewed as that today, you don't have a problem.
Cut it. Cut it.
I mean, that's a solution.
The last thing I want to
This is crazy.
Isn't this interview just such a mind fuck? Like, I mean,
wow, you got a solution. That's crazy. Like,
I mean, it's just so intellectually dishonest. Like, they really think that we're so stupid. Like, you wrote those jokes to be sexual, Dan. Like, we see that.
Okay.
Obviously.
So this interview is obviously not made for any of us in this room.
No.
And one of the things that annoys me to no end in the culture war is that everything is binary. There is no shade of gray. You're either on one side or on the other side. And this topic about inappropriate things happening to women and children is the most evident of it, because for some reason the being up in arms about this is seen as like the kind of like a dissident right-wing take, and it's mocked to a point where it's like, oh my god, they're like obsessed with it. But
moral panic.
It's true, but it's, the phrase is like save the women and children, and I just feel like instinctually it is within us to like protect the people that are the most vulnerable, and I just don't get how that instinct is not within them being, I guess the people that are opposite me in the culture war in a vast simplification, and it just feels like this should be human.
Yeah, it does.
Like, do you really want to own me that, like, oh my god, I don't care, like that bad?
A partisan issue this time around.
It is turning into a partisan issue, because look at the extremist faction that's trying to normalize pedophilia, trying to normalize sexualizing kids. Now, it's been an incremental process that began years ago. I mean, look at Brooke Shields. Like, this has been going on, but only now is it kind of turning into a partisan issue, which it should not be, but
I feel like they unite around this being a straight white guy in this one, because we have the issue with it because we talk about the disgusting nature of Hollywood in general, right? But if this was somebody of a different persuasion, I don't think they.
But Brett, that's how they paint it too. Like Larry Ender, the black face of white supremacy.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
exactly.
it's the workaround is what you're saying is like linking it to whiteness. But still, it's,
which is why they talk about racism earlier in the special. Yeah,
Dan Schneider is Jewish. Okay, just mentioning that.
Also, and I do want to point. Somebody says this interview is terrible. Yes, because the interviewer is somebody who worked on the show.
This is a guy who was a recurring guest star on iCarly. He was an adult on set, and he wants to say that the children had an environment of trust.
And this is what I mean when I say this apology isn't meant for us, and probably not for our audience as well, because when you see all the things that are laid out, it's so obvious. It's the guy seemingly repenting. It's a minority interviewer being as a voice, because like if there's anything that progressives do is like they always have minorities carry the water for them in a way to legitimize their points of view. So it's this guy. He's like the audience in the room experiencing the things. Like, oh wow, that's a solution to the problem. How insightful of you. Oh well, this is how I'm getting it. And then you have all the stupid progressives on their side, like, oh well, yeah, I agree.
They also framed Me Too, the Me Too movement, as a solution to this. And they valorized the Me Too movement as the reason why Dan Schneider was finally kicked off of Nickelodeon. But they're saying like, oh, everyone just woke up one day and they just realized that being mean is bad and we should fire people who are mean.
Which is
it's
completely rejects human nature from so many of these people.
No, like one day a huge mountain of scandals started piling up and people in a boardroom at Paramount said, we have legal liabilities, so let's get rid of our liabilities. That's what happened. And as much as they can effectively hide further Dan Schneider's and Brian Peck's going forward, they will do that. They will protect them.
So, like, once again, the point that we always harp on, like, the divide between people that can comprehend abstraction and those that truly cannot comprehend abstraction and or humor is once again a stark... This is a true divide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We got a $20 from Bonk Bonk 92.
What a great name.
Lots of crazy stuff being talked about today. I'll stick with wholesome older TV by rewatching all the Stargate movies and shows for the 5th time. Any of you Stargate fans, you heard the rumors of Amazon rebooting the series?
I've watched some of Stargate SG-1. Other than that, not really my thing. Like I said, I'm watching Jeremiah on Roku television.
Yes.
Everybody should be watching that. So a lot of people in the chat are talking about move on to the next topic. This is depressing. Yes. Yeah. Yes, it is depressing. Like when doing this, when we were watching this documentary last night, I got through about episode 3 and then I had to turn it off for a while and come back because it is depressing. But if you turn the eye from it, I mean, the point of a show like this is kind of to talk about stuff like this when it comes up, because the Hollywood Reporter isn't going to do it. Not in this context, it seems.
Yeah.
Like they're willing to call it out in some respects, but they're far more willing to demonize you for your political beliefs than they are for anything like this, because the ecosystem is so filled with people like this. It's just not going to change. Right. So even if it's not going to change, the best thing we can do is talk about this. So hopefully some parent out there might catch this show. I saw a great comment the other day, said, I was turned on to this podcast by my daughters, which I was like, wow. Like if somebody can watch this and be like, oh, maybe I don't want my child to be left alone with a Hollywood executive producer. We think of that as second nature, as common knowledge. Maybe not everybody knows that. And maybe it takes segments like this and people talking about stuff like this to make it more commonly known.
And also, this documentary is pop culture right now.
Yeah, this is like literally everyone.
It's all the rage.
This is all Twitter was talking about yesterday.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, and today. Yep. So, but on that note, let's get into some super chats. Shane H. Wilder said, "Happy Woman Wednesday." Brett, Mary, and Dane, every woman font. Happy Woman Wednesday. I like that.
Wait, does that mean I'm a woman, or that with Dane being every woman,
not you.
you two are both women and I'm a guy, therefore it's Women Wednesday?
Correct.
Yes, we outnumber you. Tacti Platy said, "Mary, I as an adult eat cereal with milk."
Okay. Yeah, Mary was dunking on me yesterday because I
eat
cereal with milk.
Like, grow up.
How is that? Dude, how do you... Wait, stop. You don't eat cereal with milk?
I don't eat cereal, period, but...
That's fine, but would you eat cereal it'd be with milk?
I wouldn't. I simply wouldn't do that.
I feel like we can lose hours in this discussion, so I'm going to politely decline.
I wouldn't eat cereal. Shane H. Wilder said, Tacti has to have his Wheaties. How else will he have the strength to fight the Goliath that is Big Avocado? It's true.
He's the boomer.
Need a balanced breakfast.
He's the boomer, right?
Tacti Platy said, Big Plantain over Big Avocado.
Oh, I love plantains.
Platanos
Platanos fritos. Yeah.
are S
I'm like
tier.
arguing with people in the chat. They're like, "You went on that topic too long." I said we went on the perfectly reasonable amount of time given the seriousness of the subject matter.
Yeah, I think we covered everything pretty well.
Let's do one more.
Noted, by the way.
Shane H. Wilder, Mary, he's a man on the streets. You heard it here first. Mary thinks Paul Rudd is for the streets. It's a fact. It's a fact. He'll take any role.
Well, we're gonna move on. We're gonna have to move on, guys. And guess what? It's not gonna get any less degenerate today, is it not?
Woohoo.
Yeah. There is a problem with mothers in Hollywood.
Which we actually just talked about before.
Yeah. But in a more general sense, I recently saw that Denise Richards was wishing a happy birthday to her daughter, Sammy Sheen, the daughter of Charlie Sheen. And look, on the surface level, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you take into account, thank you.
Now I'm gonna have to edit this out.
That's fine. That's fine. Now we can dance. Now that other topic is over, we can dance. Okay. But when you take into account the fact that Denise Richards has not only approved but openly endorsed Sammy Sheen's venture into online sex work, it kind of makes things a little bit darker. Here was her caption on Instagram. Happy 20th birthday to my beautiful Sammy girl. I love you. I'm so proud of you. You're as beautiful inside and have been a wise soul since the day you were born. I love you so much, and I'm beyond grateful and blessed to be your mom. And your Nana is always watching over you and here with you always. And I know she is so proud of you too. Happy birthday. This headline says Denise Richards gushed about how proud she was of her daughter just days before the 20-year-old released steamy boy-girl collab on OnlyFans. So Nana was definitely watching over that. And I don't think that she was pleased with what she saw.
No.
I think okay, so here's the thing. I do remember not that long ago when Sammy Sheen said that she was going to get breast augmentation. Denise Richards was like, "That's not a good idea. Don't do that." So she's okay with doing the OnlyFans, but she's not okay with her getting breast implants because she thinks it's, I make no judgment, but I just wonder, like, maybe because one has physical ramifications, the other one has psychological ramifications, which are harder to discern.
At least you can reverse getting a breast augmentation. You definitely can't reverse everyone on the internet seeing you naked. So, yeah, I if Denise Richards is listening, that's what I want you to know. And also, this was just last year that Denise Richards teased a potential OnlyFans collab with her daughter, whom she called her mini-me, okay? Literally promoting incest to this audience that Sammy Sheen has built, and also to the dismay of her father, Charlie Sheen, who said that he doesn't support this, but hey, what can you do?
Well, he was kind of bullied into then changing his mind and backtracking.
Yeah, and he said, you know, at least keep it classy. Keep it classy. And, you know, okay, it's ended the classy era. She is now getting effed on camera. She is not taking bikini photos anymore because, of course, these things escalate. Obviously, it's wrong that her mother has endorsed that decision. So, moving on.
Okay, no.
Whammon, yo. What's wrong with whammon?
What's going on?
The decision would be like, okay, so mom says, I support her doing that. Whatever your opinion on that is, let's stop short of the whole doing it together thing, the doing content together.
Well, look, where did the problem start? You're being toxically supportive of something that your daughter is doing, which is blatantly self-destructive and disgusting and degrading. Okay, so the problem started with the OnlyFans and with Denise Richards joining OnlyFans in solidarity with her daughter.
Dude, my armchair psychologist is going nuts because she's also like, she's like a little me. Remember me? I was so pretty. I was the pretty girl in the
Remember
movies.
when I was hot? Like,
now it's my daughter. Don't worry, I'm gonna be there too because it's about me.
Yeah,
like,
it's
oh my god,
so disgustingly Freudian. I mean, she's at the
up.
same time as supporting her daughter, she's competing with her daughter. It's disgusting.
Like, this will be studied for generations.
Yeah, it's just really quite disgusting,
But it
rotten.
doesn't end there.
But yeah, it doesn't end there because actress Elizabeth Hurley recently did an interview where she said it felt liberating to film a sex scene that was directed by her own son, Damien.
Elizabeth Hurley.
This is her son in an interview with her. And yeah, she said that in her new film, Strictly Confidential, an erotic thriller, she filmed a sex scene with another woman, and the scene was written and directed by her son.
I just,
But this is normal, right? And when Ethan Hawke,
it's liberating. Even.
when Ethan Hawke directs a sex scene in which his daughter Maya Hawke is in the movie, that's also normal. It's just art, guys.
So what's funny is like, okay, so let's take a step back and say, does this have ramifications that they would claim it doesn't, right? It's just art. Well, I was reading a thing today where Blake Lively was saying that seeing sex scenes with her husband Ryan Reynolds is pure torture. So there's a disconnect there. Like, is it art or is it torture?
Well, what they would say is Blake
Inclined
Lively is
minds want to know.
immature.
Yes.
They would say Blake Lively is immature. She doesn't appreciate art. She's not uninhibited enough. She's not really a true artist,
Here's
etc.
By the way, for all of this, banjo music intensifies.
Also, here's how unevolved this line of thinking is. Once again, I'm just gonna keep saying it. To the progressive mind, art is sex. There's nothing else. But it's not romance. It's not like titillating romance. It's not the build-up. It's the raw act of sexual intercourse.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. Like they have no. The words elude me. Like the romance, the eloquence,
There's no magnificence to it. It's just
like
something biomechanical almost.
Couples therapy, Dr. Jen says that Elizabeth Hurley crossed the line by doing this. Dr. Jen Mann has some advice for Elizabeth Hurley. Keep your clothes on around your grown son because it goes beyond the pale of what she considers a healthy parent-child dynamic. Well, that's not what Bradley Cooper was just saying the other week. Said he was naked around his parents all the time and that his dad, he would shower with his dad. Yeah, okay.
Well, she does acknowledge that this is a Hollywood thing, calling out the business for its lack of boundaries, noting that Damien, directing his mom's sex scene for her thriller, really blurs the lines, presumably between voyeurism and art. She finds it downright bizarre that Elizabeth Hurley felt liberated by her son witnessing her intimacy on camera, adding the only reason she'd understand her empowerment is if she was merely boosting his directing career. Aside from that, she doesn't get it. Well,
I just can't think of a greater form of torture than that.
For the son, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, we were just talking about this other example where a Brazilian OnlyFans star has hired her 18-year-old son to film her scenes. And, I mean, there's clearly something incestuous going on there.
Women,
like,
right?
emotionally incestuous. It's so sinister and, like, but we're crazy for pointing it out. We're puritanical for pointing it out and saying, no, this is weird, this is sick, and you need to stop. And I don't care if you're not breaking the law. It's weird and you need to stop. Like, it's always the, well, technically it's fine because we're all consenting adults. No, you're being degenerate. That's why you need to stop doing what you're doing.
And more than that, Hollywood, speaking of the liability of all of this stuff, Ewan McGregor was recently doing a sex scene with his wife, and they had to have an intimacy coordinator on set.
Nice.
I thought that was interesting.
That's pretty funny.
Are there no limits on these HR representatives?
Could they not sign a waiver, right? Like,
I love that.
the irony of Ben, that like later she's like, he made a pass at me while we were married on set.
McGregor says that the intimacy coach was nearly as much for the film crew behind the camera as it is for the actors in the scene. It's still necessary because it's about the crew, and it's odd to be naked in front of people. It's odd to be intimate in front of the camera. Okay, if it's odd to be naked in front of people and in front of cameras, why are you doing it? It clearly makes everyone involved deeply unsettled, and that's the reason why you need an HR representative on hand every time that you do this, because it makes everyone uncomfortable and probably scars them for life in a lot of instances. So maybe you should just stop making porn for movies and TV shows where no one asked for it to be there. That's a solution. We're talking about solutions. Here's a solution. Stop filming porn for TV shows. That's the solution, ultimately, that will get you out of all of these lawsuits and misunderstandings and Me Too claims.
I feel like we should do baby steps. Is like, let's start with.
Or can we start with the no
children?
family
Yeah,
porn?
let's
I'm with Dane. I'm more practical here. Like, start small. Let's start with the no family members involved in the.
But this is the slippery slope.
Dude,
okay, like this is why the slippery slope fallacy isn't a fallacy.
I just couldn't. If someone offered me money to film my mother. Like, I just can't think of a more profound version of hell.
Well, I think that you have respect for your mother, and a lot of other people apparently don't.
Well,
you just don't get it, Mary. You just don't.
I do not comprehend art.
You're not artistic enough to get this. It's just,
Yeah, he continued, if you were doing a dance scene, you'd have a choreographer. It's an important part of the work now because it's somebody that the director and actors meet in the middle.
So I get it. You have an action, you have a stunt coordinator, you have like a dance coordinator if you're doing scenes like that because that's a specific skill set. I like the idea that they have the intimacy coordinator on set and then the director's like, no, I'm way better at sex than you. I want to coordinate this scene, not you.
Can we have an intimacy coordinator on the show?
Yes.
And can I be on that episode,
also,
please?
it's sexist because there are no men allowed to be intimate.
I would love to pick the brain of that person.
Like, this is so idiotic. He continued this comment about intimacy coordinators and why they're so important. He said that if his 22-year-old daughter was doing a sex scene, he would want an intimacy coordinator to be there. He said if an older famous director goes to a 22-year-old and says, I want you to be naked in this scene, the actress might feel, I've got to do it. My career might depend on it. And then 5 years after that, she could look back and go, I wish I hadn't. Why am I naked in that scene? Dude, it's unnecessary.
This is crazy. This is going to go on. This is what was happening with the writers on the topic before this, right? Where they're
let me finish it. Okay, so he said now there's somebody that she can talk to whose career doesn't rest on the shoulders of this person. Okay. No, the intimacy coordinator doesn't work for the director, but the intimacy coordinator works for the studio.
Dude, intimacy coordinators are HR, and if you've ever worked in corporate America, HR.
They're not there to help you.
Their sole purpose is to have the company not get sued.
Yeah.
They will sooner get rid of you. So they will sooner get rid of you than actually solve a problem. Yeah.
So obviously that doesn't provide any safeguard for the actress who is in this hypothetical situation.
Well, and I'm talking more because they're talking about it more like the dance coordinator has a specialty, the intimacy coordinator has a specialty. Yeah, the dance coordinator has a specialty because it has to do with the skill of dance. The intimacy coordinator, it has nothing to do with the skill of intimacy. It has to do with, what can happen if the scene goes wrong.
Right, exactly. I think it's just from this very sinister idea that bastardizes eroticism and actual intimacy.
Are they really good at intimacy?
That like sex is no different from just mechanical movements. It doesn't need to mean anything. And if sex is so meaningless, why do you insist on putting it in all of our entertainment? So yeah, just gross all around that all of these people are even entertaining the idea of their family members having sex on camera or simulating sex on camera. Is just gross.
Let's go to Super Chats.
Organized Business Services said, good, I control Mary for less than $1 at 3 a.m. It's 3 a.m. for you? Are you in Australia?
Ew.
You're upside down right now. Shane H. Wilder said, is Vampires versus KKK sequel to Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter? Also, Jeremiah is a good show. Quit ishing on Brett. I got you, buddy.
Look, okay, here's the other
I will
thing
never
the
stop.
The CG, so they have to do a fair amount of work where, it's a post-apocalyptic world. He's going over a bridge that clearly hasn't had a car drive over it in a very long time. There's grass overgrown, all the signs. The CGI in the set building in the show is still better than 90% of the stuff that you see today. Because they actually went out to physical locations and filmed this stuff. They didn't just drop a bunch of actors in front of an enormous freaking green screen and say, act. Like, they actually brought them to physical locations and then built scenery behind them in the distance. It's sad how far the industry has fallen visually.
Well, that's how they pulled it off with The Last of Us.
And I would still, like, I guess The Last of Us is like, but a lot of these shows these days, they're just CGI vomit.
Yeah.
And in this show, like, there's a lot of these things where they're in like this town square market where you barter for stuff. And it's done by getting a bunch of extras and a bunch of really good set design, meaning like building small, like makeshift tables for everybody to put their goods on and building an environment that's in camera. And it works when you have really, really good actors, and it's fantastic. I do recommend everyone go check it out. And if you hate ads that much, season 2 is on Amazon Prime, but season 1 is on there, but you have to buy it. Season 2 is on there for free. Wouldn't it usually be the opposite, where season 1 you get for free, and then season 2 is like, well, if you want to keep watching, pay up.
Is it on Roku though?
It's on Roku.
Oh my God.
Both seasons are on Roku. Only 3 30-second ads per episode.
Roku sounds like a slur for streaming services.
The Roku channel is fantastic, and you know this is true because I've spent most of my life on a jihad against advertising. And if I'm willing to watch ads so I can watch old shows that don't exist anywhere else, I will.
Okay.
Yes.
Girl boss.
What an endorsement.
It is.
Tacti Platty said, "You watch Babylon 5, but turn your nose at Star Trek."
Tacti really dislikes the fact that I don't care about Star Trek.
I like Star Trek.
Which makes me not care even harder.
I mean, he's a boomer, so.
Alahad said, "I'm giving all my super chats to you instead of my usual one. The guy I followed doesn't read them. Not giving another cent to that Tim Pool person."
Yeah, you wouldn't want to do that. That would be a problem.
We're trying our very best to like not let our new subscribers know that we're at Timcast.
Other than the big logo up in the corner.
But they're not going to read that. They're not going to read that.
Like
but realistically though, like no one's going to read that.
One day we'll have a guest on here and they'll find out mid-episode that it's a Tim show and they'll freak out.
Wait, Dane, you know, like marketing wise, like people's eyes like aren't even going to go there in the corner.
Actually, that's precisely where they go.
In the top right?
Yeah, top right or top left.
Interesting. The Rumbling said, "Jeremiah was a great show. It sucks that it was only 3 seasons. I got your back, Brett. Definitely better made than most post-apocalyptic
I like
shows."
it. There's a lot of Brett support.
Let's
What's going on?
What's going on, Chad?
Let's do one.
Who are you?
Let's do one more.
Shane H. Wilder said, "I'm going to watch the doc this weekend. It's no wonder these kids grew up so effed up. It's a tale as old as time with these SOBs."
It is. It is. All right, let's move on then, shall we? Let's talk about science and the good that science has finally done for us, because a new study has been revealed that those people that would be categorized as woke are in fact far more miserable than the average person.
Yeah, so suddenly I stand the science. We believe the science.
I've seen science all the way around us. So it says,
We believe the science. Woke people are miserable and science can prove it.
Yes.
So psychological researchers in Finland have created an assessment to help measure an individual's commitment to principles of social justice and made some surprising findings across the Finnish population, including a negative correlation between progressive ideals and levels of happiness. Well, anybody who's ever seen one of those before and after college photo lineups would have been able to tell that.
Immediately I saw a comment that said, "Also ugly. Don't forget ugly."
Don't forget that they're ugly. So,
and extremely annoying.
Study author Askari Latinen, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I am not Finnish, and I'm not going to apologize for that. A senior researcher at the Invest Research Flagship Center at the University of Turku remarked that woke discourse has since worked its way into Finnish discourse.
Well, they basically put together a bunch of truisms that woke people believe.
Do you want to go through them?
They scored how much woke people believe in these statements. So here they are. If white people have, on average, a higher level of income than black people, it's because of racism. They agree with that.
They believe that is true.
University reading lists should include fewer white or European authors.
They believe that is true.
Microaggressions should be challenged often and actively.
I agree. Oh, by the way, they believe that is true.
Okay, here's one that they disagree with. Trans women who compete with women in sports are not helping women's rights.
They disagree with that. They think they are helping women's rights.
I mean, or just neutral.
Yep.
I don't know. Here's one that they agree with. We don't need to talk more about the color of people's skin.
That's
See,
odd.
that's accidentally kind of reasonable.
Yep.
Another one. A white person cannot understand how a black person feels equally as another black person.
Okay.
Now, here's the last one, which they disagree with. A member of a privileged group can adopt features or cultural elements of a less privileged group. So that would be cultural appropriation.
One of the most inadvertently kind of amazing things my dad ever said to me was like, one of the problems was that America didn't become a melting pot. It became a countertop with a bunch of ingredients all divided into separate sections, meaning that everyone moved into their specific neighborhoods. The white people moved to their neighborhood, Chinatown, all of these places where large populations all grow together, and they don't actually become a more cohesive group of people. They kind of just self-segregate into different areas. And
They're
I always thought that
tribalistic,
They're
yeah.
tribalistic in a lot of ways. Most people were okay with that at a time when the discourse wasn't as, ideologically inclined as it is now.
Sounds like a Fed.
Yeah. I mean, he did work for the government, so.
Me? I'm a Fed?
Yes, you are a Fed.
You
Why,
are. A Fed?
wait, why am I a Fed?
No, it was his dad I was talking about.
Oh, his dad is the
It's
Fed.
a recurring joke.
Okay.
So-
The author also said, this is interesting, the gender divide was most surprising to me. 3 out of 5 women view woke ideas positively, but only 1 out of 7 men.
I wonder why that is. Let's
go. Let's go, boys.
Let's go.
Let's
so,
let 'em go.
So why is that? Now, I would say a big part of it is that there's a large percentage of women that are not having kids, and their maternal instincts are being kind of pushed into these ideas because it helps them feel like they're helping other people or providing, some type of aid to other people when
they're not
realistically,
useful at all to
when they don't
society.
have anyone in their actual inner circle that requires help. But also, there's the argument that men think about things in a more statistical and logical fashion than women do.
I think that
They think less emotionally.
these women's emotions have been totally hijacked by indoctrination, and it proves that women in fields such as social sciences, education, and the humanities are more likely to espouse woke views. By contrast, participants who worked in STEM were more likely to critique social justice efforts associated with wokeness. So the people who actually have skills, instead of going into 6 figures of debt to basically work in academia afterwards, they were less likely to be woke.
So you're telling me that these people have sadder and more miserable outcomes?
Yeah.
I really hope that they can delineate the progress of human history for us in perpetuity.
Oh, yeah.
So
I can't wait for these people to be the ones that bring the progress.
I think it's the move.
So it continued. The most concerning finding was the relationship between mental health and agreement with the scale.
Okay.
Researchers found a high prevalence of anxiety and depression in people who believe the following statement, quote, if white people have on average a higher income than black people, it's because of racism. More broadly, they found that those who identified as left-wing were most likely to report lower mental well-being.
Wow.
The sad fact is, if you open your eyes and everywhere, at everything you look, all you see is grievance and inequality and problematic behavior, and you don't actually look for the good in anything because everything is bad, you're more likely to look at the world in a more negative light.
Well,
The problem is they see virtue in that.
It immediately, like once this was reported, all of the woke people saw the headline and started patting themselves on the back for being unhappy, for being miserable. They think that they're virtuous because they're unhappy about the world. So here's some responses.
Okay, go for it.
One person said, yeah, it's almost like being woke literally just translates to being aware of the world around you, which at this point is hopelessly depressing in its prospects.
That is one of the things we are dealing with the most right now is this huge push of nihilism, right? The idea that you can understand that the world is flawed and that there are problems and everything, but still be happy is completely ridiculous to them because they have nothing in their immediate lives that brings them any joy.
Also circular logic.
Yeah.
Like,
Another one said, somehow I'm not surprised that people who see and work to fix structural problems are more troubled than people who sit by and benefit from them. But go off.
It's not about
Fuck
that.
off.
It's about you.
Like you're using Stan Twitter language, and your name on Twitter is Estrogen Angel.
God,
You are not fixing anyone's structural
Who
problems.
is more likely to be happy? Someone who is working to fix all of the unfixable structural problems of society, or somebody who works to fix the lives of those in their own.
Well, look,
Wait.
that's the thing. They're not even doing any work for society. They're
They-
just pointing at problems that don't exist.
Fix nothing. They fix nothing. Their entire MO is awareness. Awareness is what stupid, weak people with no skill set do. They
We
talk.
need to they're the ones who need to start a conversation.
True. Yeah. Because we're
We
not
need
having.
to normalize.
Let's start a podcast about
We
it.
need to destigmatize.
This podcast is about the stigma about mental health or whatever.
And so I'm insane, and I'm proud of the fact that I'm on benzos. And we need to destigmatize the fact that I had a mental breakdown last night and dyed my hair red.
So I have a drug addiction and I'm clinically depressed. So let me tell you how to lead the universe.
Yeah. I mean, that's essentially
That's
what they're
we're
saying.
doing.
And I think that's a sign that something is probably deeply wrong with your worldview.
I believe
Really?
that if you were to poll every activist in the planet, the great majority of them would be unhappy.
Thankfully, though, the study author says he's about to move his efforts to the United States instead of Finland, so it's going to be even more extreme.
I wonder how that'll go.
There is.
I'm excited.
There is some part of me that feels a great amount of sadness for someone where I watch these things get played out, where they're presented with these large, unsolvable problems that they didn't know even existed just a couple of months ago, and watch as their entire existence deteriorates because they feel helpless over something that wasn't even their idea in the first place.
Well, they're even believing that something is wrong within them because they have unconscious bias.
Yes.
So you're racist and you can't even do anything to not be racist.
There's so many issues in the world that are of a result of naive people simply not getting out of the way and letting people with skill sets take care of things. Because they're all about the road to a solution being acceptable / pleasant regardless of the results, whereas other people are results driven regardless of the process.
Well, and they just want the government to solve all the problems anyways, because they don't actually, like you said, there's a difference between somebody who says, look, there's problems in my home life, there's problems in the world that I can control, and then looking for solutions. When your ultimate solution for everything is tax everybody else, and the government is the solution, you're completely taking the responsibility off yourself to fix anything. So all you had to do was put a bunch of hashtags in your tweet, and you did your job. You made society a better place.
And it's funny because we talked about abstractions, and the government is the only abstraction that they can somehow comprehend, but they do not comprehend the wheels behind it. Oh, the government, you mean just people?
Yeah.
Given authority, and they don't become infallible just because you've bestowed them authority. And it seems that no matter who you put in this situation, the same results keep happening. Again, it's just unrelenting naivety being weaponized against the everyday man.
I want to point out, though, wokeness isn't the only worldview that's going to make you unhappy.
Correct.
Nihilism.
I have met plenty of nihilists of all political leanings.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the red pill movement, for example, it's incredibly nihilistic.
Yeah,
I've met a lot of far right conservatives
absolutely.
who are incredibly nihilistic because you're looking at a worldview that has no solutions to any problems, and you definitely there's no hope for you as an individual.
Well, get out of the way.
And there's no escape. And
this is why I talk about focusing on yourself. Focus on what you can control, right?
But they think, there's no hope for me. There's no hope for anyone.
The idea to me is it's about whether you can accept that the world is flawed and there's problems that are always going to exist. Can you? What was I said yesterday? I said the day that you accept that the world isn't fair is a good day. Because if you're not tortured with the fact that not everybody is going to come to an exact equal outcome all the time, that sometimes things go bad, but that's not all there is, you're more liable to find goodness elsewhere.
And I was talking about a similar thing with Sarah today in the kitchen. And I was saying that there's a moment in every man's life, and it's approximately like 23, 24, kind of like that Blink-182 song, where he realizes that he is no longer loved by simply because of the man who he is, and he is loved by what he can produce. And it's honestly a moment that define men, because it's the hardest moment in your life, and you will receive great like a great central part of your respect for yourself for overcoming it. However, there are a significant portion of men that never overcome that, and they remain in this childlike state.
Yeah.
Where they kind of accentuate the qualities that they were loved as children. And I feel like we're rewarding that type of people. And you know, I feel like this is the Harry Potter kid, the Disney kid, like they just lean so heavily towards the juvenile aspect of them that made them unique at the moment or feel loved. But they just like can't get over the fact is like, hey, like we are a collective people and we all need to put our hand in it. And, you know, as cruel as it may be, like we need, you know, like step it up.
I just say focus less on large scale problems and focus internally in those in your initial circle of people. The smaller you make the problems that you need to solve, the better off you are. Mm-hmm. Like if your goal is to solve, I need to find a better job, I need to make strides in my relationship, I need to learn certain skills, that's something you can work on. I need to solve systemic racism and
good luck.
And inequality. That's not a realistic thing for anybody to work on. But as they say, if you can fix things in your own world, you make the world a better place, which puts you closer to a world with the things that you want solved. I don't think that that's all that crazy of an idea.
No, it's a great idea.
People are thinking on a macro scale, but we can't solve problems that way.
Because there's an archetype of person that will use impossible problems as their crux. Is like, oh, wow, you're concerned about losing 10 pounds. I'm concerned about fixing the entire global economy.
You're watching a podcast when there's a genocide going on in Gaza?
But it's... Again, so they set themselves impossible standards so that they can predictably fail and be like, well, at least I tried. Yeah. You did not try. You're hiding behind the lie that you tried. It's like a more insidious nihilism.
No, because it's like a self-soothing tactic.
It is a self-soothing tactic. That's why it's like more insidious because they're banking of my goodwill that I'm not going to call them out on it. It's like, well, it's impossible and you knew it and that's why you're doing it.
I'm fresh out of goodwill for them.
Oh, I have none,
I'm
dearest friend. I have none. I don't even want to associate with them anymore.
I can't ever wrap my head around it because for all of the problems in the world, even in this space, and it's very easy to get blackpilled in this space because one of the things about podcasts like Tim's or other like that, they're constantly talking about large-scale political issues which have large-scale implications for the country we live in. But I can't bring myself to let that destroy my ability to just get up, go to work, and find the things I find enjoyable. So I can be done with work here, go skate, and I have as much fun doing that now as I did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and that's enough for me. I don't need to solve all of the problems that are going on. It's another reason why I talk about why there's certain types of shows that I like. There is a tone to shows that came out between 2007 and 2012, which just had more hope.
Optimism for sure.
Which was just more optimistic about the human condition. And when you go back and rewatch that stuff now in the shadow of the disgusting grime that is Hollywood's tonal choice now, it's amazing. And you're like, wow, it feels like a weight is being lifted off you when you're watching stuff like that. And that's not even to say that all of these shows are good. They just have a more positive outlook on what it means to be a human being here in America.
And to your point, the shows that I think that of the generation that you enjoyed the most, they had imperfect characters that still like strive towards a goal. Whereas now the art forms is like this impossibly perfect person that's just like things happen to them and they have the perfect solution to and answer towards everything. There is no point of like self-discovery. There is no point of introspection. They come with a perfect set of values, progressivism, and then they weaponize progressivism against a solution and it works out perfectly. And I feel like people see that as like, I'm going to do that. And then it doesn't work because it never works.
Reality hits them in the face.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Super Chats.
Okay, Dave Collins said, Hollywood has always been full of degenerates. What shocks me are the parents who enable the abuse of their children for money or fame by proxy.
Yes.
Doesn't even remotely shock me.
Let's get a third crisis party, guys.
It's like you
third
said,
crisis
they
party.
just don't have an instinct of protecting their child. I feel like everyone has an instinct that children need to be protected. But as a parent, though, like you just have this biological, primal urge to protect your kid, and for some people I guess they just they're loose, like something ain't right in their brain. I don't know.
People are mentioning shows like Sons of Anarchy or Breaking Bad. Yes, okay, I'll give you an example the other direction. So there was a show starring Mark Feuerstein called Royal Pains, which is about a doctor who's like a concierge doctor in the Hamptons, and all of the show is him fixing rich people. And the rich people are not portrayed
Royal Pains?
Yes. And the rich people are not portrayed as evil. They're portrayed as quirky and a bit odd. And that's the tone of the show, is that it's a bunch of kind of blue-collar-esque people who don't come from money but exist in this sphere with money. And it's watching them navigate the obscure and weird behavior of these rich people, but it's portrayed in a way that's supposed to be kind of endearing.
Humanizing.
It's humanizing, and it shows that even people with money have quirks. They would never make that show today. All of those people would be shamed for what they have. Most of them are actually valorized. So there's a character named Mrs. Newberg, and she talks about how she treats all of her staff like family. And if that was done today, the staff would roll their eyes at this and have a problem with the fact that, you don't pay me enough. Oh, you have too much money. Give all your money away. Well, that's not what it's about, okay? And guess what? That show went for 8 seasons, and I think more than that because one of them got broken up into 2. And people liked it because after a day at work, they don't want to come home and want to be lectured on income inequality or wealth inequality. They want quirky, fun characters that make it a joy to watch. It's not that difficult.
Yeah. High Voltage 75 said, Mary not knowing of the Taco Bell Chihuahua made me feel so old.
Yeah, man.
That
same.
little dog was all over the TV back in the day.
Constantly.
You know? What was its name?
I don't know.
It didn't have a name? Like,
Just
what's the Target one? Spot? Yeah.
Spot travels in first class when he flies. You know
Well,
that?
there have been multiple spots, but we don't talk about that. Corey Anderson said, got tickets to see Fall Out Boy tonight. I'm going to see Hot Mulligan and will leave before Fall Out Boy play.
Nice.
Wow.
Cool.
Hopefully it didn't cost you too much.
That sounds expensive if you're not even going to watch them, but okay.
Our fans are loaded.
Dave Collins said that was such a fake apology. Dan Schneider only regrets his misconduct, that his misconduct was exposed to the public, and now he's doing damage control.
I mean, it's pretty true that when people say he's not sorry, he's just sorry he got caught. I'm like, okay, they're all like, that's.
I think he's sorry that he got caught, and he's sorry. I do. Like, I think he genuinely realizes that he was psycho. And that he did some psycho things, and he kind of doesn't regret it. And he's saying that he regrets it, even though he doesn't, because it made him all his money. And
I don't know. I don't see the spark in the divine.
That he wouldn't have been as successful if he weren't such a jerk. That's the truth.
I agree.
Like, he had to be a jerk to get the job done. And the other things that he did, not necessary. But being a jerk probably was necessary to get what his job was done.
Let's get that third crisis party. Come on, guys.
Shane H. Wilder said he wouldn't cut those jokes. Adult jokes have been in kids' TV for decades. Look at SpongeBob, the Animaniacs. The issue is it used to be wordplay on cartoons. With Dan, it's live action with children.
Yeah, I wonder if he even made that distinction when he was doing it.
Well, no, I think he's not even admitting that it had an innuendo at all. Like, he's literally just not going to admit that it was on purpose.
The way he phrased it is that children thought nothing of it, but then now, years later, adults are watching it and like kind of reading into things. It's like, no, it's kind of
pretty blatantly
On the news.
Yeah. Like, but he wasn't even admitting it was intentional. He was just like, they were written for kids and it was supposed to be funny to kids, and there was nothing about it that you should have ever seen it.
He didn't say he was wrong. What he said was like, I wanted to be popular. I want to take it out. Like I just want you to love me.
I just want the adulation.
Yeah.
Just cut the jokes. And I don't think they should. I don't think they should go back and change the shows. Because, let people see the evidence of what happened and let them enjoy their shows. Corey Anderson said, Mary, are you a never nude like Tobias Funke from Arrested Development?
Have you seen that show?
Yeah.
So like he showers in shorts.
Yes. And there are dozens of us.
Okay.
Dozens. Gordon Shumway said, how can you speak about Hollywood bad behavior when there is a genocide?
What is the life of just 5 Hollywood kids when there's millions of kids dying around the world every day?
Is this a meme?
We've just been making fun of the way that people are constantly like bringing up Palestine.
The one that I was talking
on
about recently was like this dad who made this like cute TikTok where he brought his daughter to Target and they camped out overnight to get the Stanley Cup when it came out. And then they're like, Target is a
Or no, Starbucks. It was Starbucks.
No, this was Target. So he brings his kid and they camp out. They order like DoorDash to Target, and he makes a video of it. It's adorable. It's a dad. He's finding a way to spend time with his daughter because his daughter wants one of these stupid cups. Okay, Mary's got one right there. All right, she wants the stupid cup. He's like, well, we're going to make a TikTok about it. It's sweet, I guess. And when all the comments were like, well, Target is a Zionist evil company, and how can you support this type of consumerism when there's a genocide going on in Gaza? And I'm like, bro's not thinking about that, dude. Bro, and this is what I'm talking about. This goes back to what we were just talking about. He's focused on his family. You're focused on people 10,000 miles away who you have no connection to in a problem that you can't fix. That would drive anyone insane.
Of course you wouldn't get it. You're trying to fix yourself. I'm trying to fix the issues in Gaza and the Israel conflict. You wouldn't get it. That's why I'm depressed.
Unironically, yes. Yes, I'm trying to fix myself.
I hate
You're
them.
trying to fix them.
I hate them when they hate me.
Let's see who gets there first.
Probably not.
The
no
feeling
one.
is mutual.
At least when I fail, I'll have failed on a smaller scale.
Well, it's very
That what a silver lining. Wow, that should be the title of your documentary.
At least when at least when I fail on a smaller scale.
It was a reasonably sized failure.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Well, it's Nietzschean because they're rationalizing their inability to do anything meaningful with their lives as a virtue.
Man, Nietzsche should sponsor this podcast. Like he's been getting a lot of shout outs today.
It's deserved, I think.
Nietzsche,
yeah.
Okay, there we go.
How can you talk about Nietzsche when there's a genocide going on in Gaza?
Shane H. Wilder said Roku channel is good. Can confirm.
Shut up.
Talk about Roku when there's a genocide.
Shut up. Let's make your memes.
The Roku channel is dope. You guys are wrong. Everyone's saying it's not. It's wrong.
Okay.
Got it.
Mika.
I'm also watching Relic Hunter with Tia Carrera, which is just a knockoff of Tomb Raider. It's kind of like Tomb Raider mixed with Mortal Kombat Conquest from 1999. It's amazing.
That's great, Brett.
Thank you.
Mika Kazichi said...
You mean Nietzsche?
Nietzsche.
We're off the walls right
The
now.
stuff with Denise Richards would have been like my own mom telling me to perk up by mixing meth in with my heroin. Yikes.
That's called a speedball. You shouldn't do that. Don't do that. It's bad for you. Trust me. I know.
Sounds bad.
Shane H. Wilder said, hey, I can't ish on Brett all the time.
Yes, you can. What do you mean you can't? Believe in yourself.
Anything's possible.
Wrong.
I can do it.
Bonk Bonk 92 said
What a great
Google TV is better than Roku. LOL.
What the hell do you know? Your name is Bonk Bonk 92.
Hey.
You don't know anything.
Hey.
Okay?
Don't hate on Bonk.
Don't ever hate on Bonk Bonk.
Shane H. Wilder said the left is more depressed. Shocker. The difference is when people like us have issues, we still find ways to live moss.
I mean, the judging by the way
we always live moss. Regardless of what life throws at us, we live moss.
Nice.
Say what you will.
Oh my god.
The Manic Mustache said, F the red pill, I just got Dane pilled, the new hero of the Manoniverse.
The Maniverse?
Move over, fed, and flip. There is a new toxic male in the kitchen.
Yes.
Wait, who
In
the,
the
hell is,
kitchen?
who the hell is Fed and who the hell is Flip?
Huh?
I'm guessing you're fed.
No, they call Mary a Fed. So what the hell makes me?
Mary is a fed.
Okay.
I really hope you're not. Listen, I'll do any deal. Any deal. I'll sell this guy down the river. I care nothing for him.
Okay.
Not a single thing. Just like, ow.
That was mean.
Ow.
I'm sorry.
That was
I'll
violent.
sell him down the river. I'm telling you, he's physically abusive.
I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna get involved in this.
Okay.
In this beef. Quiet and Ari
There's
said.
gonna be like a post-it note mark on your forehead.
You're glad we don't have an intimacy coordinator here.
Quiet and Ari said, "How can you complain about a genocide when there's a princess missing?"
See, there's so many things you could be focused on rather
Kate-gate is more important.
Is that still going on?
Yeah, I mean, some
Damn, is she
people.
dead?
She was seen recently with William at a farmer's market. And the video is kind of blurry, and everyone's like,
Oh, God,
it's a
she's
clone.
like an alien?
It's a clone. It's a stand-in. It's not her. Whatever.
Yeah, I saw House and Habit getting mad at people for claiming that she wasn't the real Kate. She thinks it's a low-tier conspiracy.
I mean, it is a low-tier conspiracy, like in terms of the stakes, but it's funny at the very least.
All right, guys. I thought we were gonna get to the third crisis party, but apparently.
But no, you failed us.
Apparently, they don't care about the genocide going on in Gaza. So.
Wow.
No, they care more about the genocide going on in Gaza. I think that's what it is right now.
Oh, okay.
Guys, before we go, would you please hit the like button on this video and subscribe to this channel if you have not done so already, please and thank you. And Dane, first, sorry for hitting you in the head with the Post-it note, and second, thank you for coming.
I will not forgive you.
Let everyone know where they can find you, my friend.
Well, they can find me being battered over at Twitter at Dane Font. And now, I shall spell that out for you. DANEFONT.
Perfect. Mary.
You can send me validation on Instagram at Mary Archived, or you can send me hate on X. That is also Mary Archived.
All right, guys, if you want to follow me, Instagram and Twix at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. PCC is here 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is noon Pacific. Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify if you would prefer to listen rather than watch. If you want to follow the show on social media, we are on Twix at popculture_show, Facebook and not TikTok at popculturecrisis, Instagram at popculturecrisisPod. Mary, there's one more there from Shane H. Wilder.
This is shocking. He said, Roku literally has a show called Murder House Flip where they do house makeovers for people who bought the homes of serial killers. This is impossible. How are there that many homes of serial killers to choose from?
Well, I read somewhere that there's like an average of like 300 active serial killers in America at any.
But they're not getting caught, so we don't know.
Long line of Dasovics.
Yeah. So, guys, with that being said, we will be back with another episode tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye, guys.